Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep, really deep into the world of rope bondage.
Mm-hmm.
And our guide is the book Bondage Basics, Naughty Knots and Restraints You Need to Know.
That's right. And for you, the learner listening in, if you like getting up to speed quickly but also thoroughly, well, we're aiming to pull out the core stuff from this book.
Yeah, the essentials.
Exactly. History, safety, huge topic there, equipment, some basic how-tos.
Uh-huh.
The mission today is really to give you a solid foundation, spark some curiosity maybe, but without, throwing too much at you all at once.
All right. And this book, it really does cover a lot of ground. I mean, from the big ideas behind kink
Yeah.
to actual step-by-step guides for ties. And it talks about safety, community.
Yeah.
It's pretty comprehensive.
It really is.
So, okay, let's jump in. The absolute basics. What is bondage, according to this guide?
Well, fundamentally, the book defines it as the practice of tying or restraining a partner, and that can be for sexual reasons or even artistic ones. And like the title says, this book really zeroes in on rope.
You can tell the author is passionate about the rope aspect specifically.
Right. It comes through.
Now, the book mentions bondage often overlaps with BDSM. Can you maybe break that down a bit more?
Sure. So BDSM, that's the broader term, right? It stands for bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, sadism and masochism.
Right.
Think of it like a big umbrella, the learner. And under that umbrella, you've got all sorts of consensual play involving power dynamics, intensity, sometimes pain and pleasure mixed together.
Okay.
And bondage. Well, it fits neatly under that umbrella. It's often part of BDSM activities, like tying someone up might happen within a dom sub scene, for example.
I see the connection now. Now, there's this common idea, isn't there, maybe a misconception, that BDSM is somehow abusive. The book tackles this head on.
Yes, and that's so important to clear up right at the start. Pop culture, movies, they don't always get it right. But the BDSM community, and the book stresses this, puts a huge emphasis on trust, safety, and just constant, clear communication.
Consent.
Consent above all. Any intensity, any sensation, it's all agreed upon. It happens within this framework of respect, sometimes real intimacy. It's a negotiated thing, power and pleasure, not abuse.
That's such a vital distinction.
Yeah.
The author even tells this personal story about their first time trying bondage. It was quite funny, actually.
Oh, yeah. He talks about coming from a farm background and basically tying his partner up like a wagon load of hay.
Yeah.
They laughed about it, apparently, but she actually couldn't get loose.
Oh, wow.
But the funny thing was, that level of restraint, it was actually a huge turn-on for her.
Really?
Yeah. And that kind of highlights a key point the book makes, the learner. Exploring this stuff often leads to unexpected discoveries about yourself, about your partner. It's not just knots and ropes.
It's psychological, too.
Exactly. It's that whole journey of learning what clicks for you.
It really is. Okay, so we have a basic idea. Now, the book gets into terminology, and wow, there's a lot. It can feel like a new language.
It definitely can feel that way at first.
What are some of the absolute must-know terms for our listeners?
Okay, let's hit some key ones from the book. You've got bottom. That's someone who takes a submissive role sometimes, but maybe doesn't see themselves as always submissive.
Right, it's situational.
Kind of. Then there's collaring. That usually means a committed long-term D's relationship. Sometimes there's an actual collar involved, symbolically.
Okay.
And then crucial consent. Just straightforward permission, given freely, sound mind, all that.
And RAC. The book mentions RACK.
Yes. RACK, risk-aware consensual kink. It's more than just a phrase. It's like a core philosophy. It means you go into things understanding the potential risks, talking about them, and getting explicit consent from everyone involved. It underpins everything, really. Safe play.
Gotcha. And then we have the dominant, or DOM.
Yep. Someone who enjoys taking charge, the power role. And dom is specifically for a female dominant.
Right. And the other side.
That'd be the submissive or sub, someone who takes the more receptive role in that power exchange.
Okay.
You also hear terms like master or mistress. The book clarifies these usually refer to people in a 247 BDSM lifestyle, a total power exchange, or TPE with a committed slave.
TPE. The book mentions that later, right? A deeper dive kind of relationship.
Exactly. It's where that D's dynamic isn't just for scenes, it's woven into daily life, a big commitment.
Okay. Any other key terms?
Yeah, a couple more useful ones. Rigor, that's just a general term for someone who likes tying people with rope.
The person doing the tying.
Right, and then there's rope bunny, kind of an endearing term, isn't it?
That is.
It refers to anyone, any gender who just really enjoys being tied up, gets arousal from it.
Rope bunny.
Yeah.
I like that one. Now, the book also mentions states of mind, feelings that can come up.
Subdrop. That's the potential low feeling a submissive might get after intense play, like a come down. And then there's subspace. That's more like a deeply focused, almost meditative state some people enter during a scene.
Like being in the zone.
Kind of, yeah. Like you're totally absorbed. The outside world just fades. Very intense focus.
Interesting.
Then aftercare, super important. That's the physical and emotional support after play. And hard limits, which are absolute no-goes.
Negotiable boundaries.
Exactly. And safe words, the signals to slow down or stop immediately.
That's a good list. It's interesting, too, how the book stresses that these roles aren't always rigid. People don't always need labels.
Totally. The author really emphasizes that exploring kink is a journey. Some people find labels helpful, others not so much. They might prefer that fluid space BDSM offers.
Yeah.
It's about what works for you.
And speaking of what works, the book discusses finding your role. It sounds like it's not always obvious where someone fits, or if they even fit neatly.
That's a really key point. The book encourages people to try things out. Maybe you like being dominant sometimes, submissive other times. Maybe you're a switch, someone who enjoys both.
So it takes time, experimentation.
Yeah, definitely. Time and experience to figure out what really resonates. You might like giving certain kinds of pleasure and receiving totally different kinds.
It sounds like the learner exploring bondage is about more than just knots. It's really a personal journey, understanding your own desires, your boundaries, and how those might change. The book also mentions sexuality being fluid within BDSM, too.
Precisely. It reinforces that BDSM is pretty accepting of that fluidity. People don't always fit neat boxes, and that's okay. It's about finding what feels good and fulfilling for everyone involved.
Now, after things get intense, the book really highlights aftercare. It sounds like it's more than just, a glass of water.
Oh, absolutely. Aftercare is vital, both physically and emotionally after a scene. The book talks about subspace, that focused state,
Right.
and subdrop, that potential crash afterwards. Aftercare needs to address both.
So what does good aftercare actually look like, according to the book?
Well, the dominant partner, or whoever was in charge, should really focus on creating a comforting, relaxing space.
Okay.
That means checking in, acknowledging feelings the submissive might be having, offering reassurance, positive words. Soft physical touch can be good for some. And interestingly, the guide suggests good quality dark chocolate can actually help with subdrop.
Dark chocolate. Okay, now that's an aftercare tip I can get behind.
Right.
What about self-care? If maybe your partner isn't right there or you need some solo processing time.
Good question. The book suggests making your own personal aftercare pack.
Like a kit.
Yeah, exactly. Fill it with things that make you feel good, comforting smells, maybe some nice body cream, a favorite movie, music, handles. Treats, of course.
The chocolate again.
Maybe. The point is to create a soothing environment for yourself. And importantly, always have someone you can reach out to if you feel low or overwhelmed. A support system.
That's really thoughtful advice. It shows the level of care involved. Now, the book also talks about bondage as art and beyond. It's not just about sex.
That's right. While it's often very loving, sensual, erotic, built on trust and care, the book makes it clear it's not only about sex.
How so?
Well, the author mentions their annual event, Morpheus's Bondage Extravaganza.
Okay.
It's described as this 12-hour showcase focusing purely on the beauty and art of rope. It shows the appeal even outside a sexual context.
Huh. So rope as an art form.
Exactly. The author really sees it that way. Like, rope can be this medium for nonverbal expression, almost like dance or sculpture for some people. It can get quite aesthetic, even spiritual.
Fascinating. Are there other non-sexual uses mentioned?
Yeah, a few. Like simple finger or toe bondage used symbolically, maybe to help someone stay in a service mindset in a TPE relationship.
Okay.
It even mentions a sort of crude rope chastity belt, again, as a symbolic thing, a reminder of ownership. It shows how versatile rope can be, the different meanings it can hold.
And it sounds like people have different tastes, too. Like some like rougher rope, some softer, some are more into just being tied versus other stuff happening.
Totally. The author makes clear there's no single right way. Finding what you personally prefer is a big part of the exploration.
Okay, let's rewind a bit. The book has A brief history of rope bondage. I guess it goes back further than modern BDSM.
Well, their author jokes it probably started with the first criminal who got tied up.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the focus is more on how it developed as an art and a form of sexual expression. The book says modern rope bondage is kind of a mix, a fusion of Eastern and Western styles.
Interesting. What's the difference?
Some riggers stick purely to one tradition or the other, but the author prefers blending them, adding a modern twist. The book specifically calls out shibari.
Shibari, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's an Eastern style, very passionate community around it, often focuses on intricate patterns, the visual aesthetic of the rope work, very sensuous, very artistic.
Right.
The author says their style and the ties in the book try to bring the best of both worlds together, for bedroom use.
A modern blend. Sounds cool. Okay, we absolutely have to talk safety. The book has a whole chapter, Communication and Safety, the cornerstones. That title says it all, really.
It really does. Communication is just paramount. Before, during, after. For safety, obviously, but also just for making it fulfilling for everyone. It starts with really open, honest talks between partners or potential partners.
What should those talks cover?
Desires, turn-ons, fantasies, sure, but just as important. Boundaries, turn-offs, any worries.
Right.
And practical stuff, too. Any medical conditions, past experiences that might be sensitive. Even small preferences matter. The book talks about empathy, listening, finding people you actually trust.
Building that foundation. But the book mentions hard limits and soft limits. What's the difference there?
Good question. Hard limits are the absolute no way never boundaries, lines you won't cross, don't even want to get near.
Okay.
Soft limits are more negotiable, things someone might consider, maybe under certain conditions or something they want to work towards slowly, with lots of trust and communication. The book even suggests writing things down like a contract for play just to make sure everything is crystal clear.
And communication doesn't just stop before the ropes come out.
Oh, definitely not. During and after are just as vital. During, you might use whispers, hand signals, whatever works to check in on comfort levels. And afterwards, honest reflection. The book really encourages talking about what worked, what didn't, anything that needs adjusting for next time, and doing it fairly soon after while it's fresh.
Okay. The book also gets into pushing boundaries without overstepping them. That sounds tricky. How do you navigate that safely?
Very carefully, especially if you're new to it all. The advice is basically only think about pushing boundaries with partners you really trust, partners you have a history of safe play with.
Makes sense.
Never rush it. And the person taking the lead, the dominant, needs to really understand why the submissive wants to explore that soft limit. What's the motivation?
Right.
And they need to be super attuned during the scene, watching for tiny changes in body language, nonverbal stuff, constantly checking in.
Requires a lot of awareness, a lot of sensitivity. Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks of rope safety itself. What are the core principles?
The number one rule, according to the book, you must be able to get someone out of any restraint in seconds, period.
Okay. Instantly releasable.
Exactly. Rope shouldn't dig in, shouldn't cut the skin. And the person tying needs to constantly check for circulation issues, discomfort. They mentioned checking CSM.
CSM.
Yeah, circulation, sensation, movement. So the learner, that means actively looking. Is the skin color okay? Not blue or super pale. Is it warm? That's circulation.
Got it.
Sensation. Can they feel you touching the tied area? Any numbness? Tingling? And movement. Can they still wiggle fingers or toes?
Okay, CSM. Check constantly.
Constantly. Ties should be snug, sure, but you should always be able to slip at least a finger between the rope and the skin comfortably.
Are there specific danger zones? Places to be extra careful?
Yes. The book warns, don't tie right around joints. And don't let too much weight hang off one small area for too long. That's how you risk nerve damage.
Ouch. Nerve damage sounds bad.
It can take weeks, months to heal. Not worth the risk. And the book puts this in bold, underlined text. Never, ever tie rope around the front of someone's neck.
Absolutely not. Crystal clear. Any other big safety rules?
A huge one. Never leave someone tied up alone. Ever. The book says this is a major cause of accidents, serious injuries.
Right, makes total sense.
Also, stay sober, no alcohol, no drugs during play. Your judgment needs to be sharp.
Good point.
And finally, know each other's sexual health status, practice good hygiene, and have safety gear ready.
Safety gear, what kind?
EMT shears the ones with the blunt tip so you don't accidentally stab someone while cutting rope quickly.
Got it.
A basic first aid kit. And rescue hooks, they're specifically designed to slice through rope fast in an emergency.
Got it. Shears, kit, hooks.
Yeah.
and things to avoid.
Yeah, never ignore discomfort signals. And obviously, no coercion, no pressuring someone into anything they're not 100% okay with.
Right. Consent and communication again. Okay, safety covered. Now the fun part, the equipment, knowing your rope. I guess not all rope is created equal for this.
Definitely not. Although the book does say, you don't need to break the bank starting out. Imagination and safety awareness are key.
Oh,
But yeah, it breaks down the types. Basically, natural fibers and synthetic fibers. Each has pros and cons.
okay, natural fibers first. What are we talking about?
Things like jute, hemp, linen, cotton. Jute is pretty popular, often used in shibari. It holds knots well. Hemp can be rougher, needs treating, usually boiling, oiling to soften it up. Linen looks nice, apparently, but less common. Cotton is soft, but maybe not as strong.
So natural fibers hold knots well. Might need some prep. What about synthetics?
Synthetics mentioned include nylon, polypropylene, parachute cord, even thick yarn sometimes.
Nylon.
Nylon's often recommended for beginners. It's strong, pretty cheap, comes in colors, often feels smoother than some natural ropes.
Okay.
Polypropylene is another cheap, easy-to-find option. Paracord, yarn. They're thinner, less strong, maybe okay for decorative stuff or small body parts. The book also mentions bamboo rope, stronger than cotton, maybe not as soft.
And rope size.
Yeah.
Length, thickness. Any general advice?
Lengths vary hugely. Short ones, maybe 5-15 feet for just tying wrists or ankles.
Yeah.
Long ones, 30-60 feet, even longer for complex harnesses or suspension.
Wow.
For starting out, the author suggests maybe around 30 feet long and about 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch thick. That's roughly 6-10 millimeter. Thicker ropes can be harder to handle when you're learning knots.
Right. Sound like serious riggers build up quite the collection. The book mentions treating and storing rope, too.
Yeah, just basic care, keep them dry, store them neatly, helps them last longer. And it lists essentials for what it calls a bedside drawer for rope play.
Ooh. What should be in the drawer?
Well, ropes, obviously. Different types, length, those safety shears we mentioned, rescue hooks, bondage tape, the kind that only sticks to itself, not skin.
Right.
And alternatives, soft scarves, neckties, stockings, pillowcases, even plastic wrap. But use that with extreme caution. Think suffocation risk.
Yikes. Okay.
Plus any other toys you might want, and cleaning supplies, and just as important, what not to use.
Like what?
Really rough natural fibers, core, sisal, manila, metal handcuffs if you don't have the keys right there. Anything you can't cut or break easily in an emergency.
Got it. Safety first. It even gives tips for a beginner's kit.
Yeah.
Very practical. Okay, so you've got gear, you know safety, you need a partner. Chapter on choosing your bondage partner. Sounds important.
Absolutely crucial. The book boils it down to one word, really. Trust.
Trust me.
That's the foundation. And that includes being totally open about physical and sexual health. The book specifically says, talk about recent STI testing. Be transparent.
Good advice.
And move slowly, especially with new partners. Respect boundaries, comfort levels, always.
Communication from the very start, even finding someone. The book also says try different things, positions, roles.
Yeah, experiment safely, communicate constantly. Find out what works for both of you. It also touches on the power play aspect, that exchange of power that's often central to why people find bondage fulfilling, whether they're tying or being tied.
Okay. Trustworthy partner, check. Rope, check. Safety rules understood, check. Now, actually tying knots. Basic knots and other rope building blocks.
Yes, the alphabet of bondage, the book calls it. Learn a few reliable basics, and you can build from there. It starts with the bula bula.
Bula bula.
Yeah, described as a simple, quick-starting knot, good for securing the end of a rope.
Okay, what else?
The lark's head knot, that's a constriction knot, tightens when you pull it. Very versatile. There's a method for joining rope if you need more length mid-tie.
Practical.
The wrists behind tie specifically for binding wrists together without rope between them, though the book notes it's not for super tight restriction. The 2-column tie, good for binding two things together, like wrists or ankles. And even a basic hair tie using a hair elastic with rope. Gentle stuff.
That's a solid toolkit of basic knots. Then the book shows how to use them in actual ties examples.
Exactly. Step-by-step instructions, often with pictures. Starting super simple, like the simple cross wrist tie. Then building up. A simple strappado, that's an arm binder. A ladder tie for legs. It shows how these basic knots, the learner, become the building blocks for all sorts of restraints. Some simple, some more complex or decorative.
Seems like it covers different body parts, different goals, too.
Totally. There's an asymmetric chest tie for men. An intriguing toe tie. The book suggests this might be used for orgasm control.
Totally.
Through focused sensation. but with a big safety warning. Keep the person reclining so they don't lose balance.
Right, safety first.
A simple and sexy chest harness for women. Variations like a wrist capture. Ties called sex harnesses, like a simple hip harness and leg weave, or a novice sex harness hip tie. These are designed to create leverage points, maybe enhance sensation during sex. More decorative stuff too, an infinity chest tie, a sexy body tie, or karada, which makes dive-in patterns, even a rope corset.
Wow.
And it ends with the redneck trucker's hitch. Not strictly bondage, but a really useful knot for creating tension in lots of situations.
Sounds like a huge range, from basic restraints to really intricate visual stuff. Okay, finally the book wraps up with what's next? Exploring further. What advice does it give for people wanting to go deeper?
It starts with a bit of self-reflection, like figure out what part of bondage really appeals to you most. Is it the feeling of being restricted, the artistry, the sensations, the power dynamics?
Knowing what you like.
Exactly. Then explore that further, but slowly, carefully, always with trusted partners. Keep talking fantasies, desires, boundaries. Communication never stops being key.
And what about connecting with other people who are into this?
The book strongly encourages finding a BDSM community, says there are lots of benefits, sharing knowledge, finding partners, getting tips on good rope or safe tape suppliers.
Where do you find these communities?
It mentions different kinds of gatherings, casual meetups called munches, more active play parties, classes, workshops for learning skills and safety. It advises being careful and polite online and mentions fetlife.com as one place people connect locally. And it briefly mentions TPE, again, total power exchange, for those maybe interested in that deeper 2047 dynamic within a relationship.
Right, so after this whole deep dive into bondage basics, what are the big takeaways for you, the learner?
I think the main things are rope bondage is complex, it's layered, it's got history, art, personal exploration, techniques. But all of it, every single bit, rests on that foundation of communication, open, honest, ongoing, and an absolute commitment to safety.
Communication and safety, non-negotiable.
Totally. So you've got a good overview now, the lingo, the safety rules, equipment basics, some knots, and where you might go next if you want to learn more or connect with others responsibly.
Okay, considering that blend, that intricate mix of practical skill and really deep intimacy that seems to be involved in rope bondage, here's a final thought for you to chew on. Thinking about a safe, consensual context, how might that act of physically binding someone, when it's done with real trust and care, how might that create unexpected emotional bonds, maybe lead to a deeper, more vulnerable kind of understanding between partners? Could it actually push the boundaries of how we connect human to human?